to live, and that's a misnomer, misinformation. It has escalated where we have found blogs online from white supremacist organizations, which are now detrimental to our organization, and the member who they're claiming is teaching these classes, which they're not. I live in the city shelter. I've been homeless for 30 months. I'm a former postal employee, and the city spends $263,000 and change. You'll see the post in the back what a homeless woman is worth on a shelter for 72 women. The city has given this organization less than that over the 5 years. They are now saying that the city will be rescinding our funding based on allegations that have not been investigated. So we're here today to highlight the fact that our count banking on vacancy of vacant buildings and lots in the city, which bolsters our legislation, Intro 48, known as annual census of vacant buildings and lots, is a real problem in the city, and because we're shining a light on it and they cannot discredit our report, they're trying to hurt the organization. If you look behind us, that entire block, all the apartment buildings are vacant. Most of the ground floor commercial is rented, but those houses have been vacant for a very, very long time. So we're here today to talk to you about that. I'm going to introduce Gideon, who is the president of the New York City chapter of the National Lawyers Guild, to discuss further what we're going to do.
My name's Gideon Oliver. I'm the president of the New York City chapter of the National Lawyers Guild. Some of this may be a little bit of recap, but last Sunday the New York Post published an article saying, among other things, that Picture the Homeless was telling the homeless to invade apartments, that Picture the Homeless was teaching squatting, and that Picture the Homeless was teaching homeless people to break into vacant properties. There's a quote in the article when it came out from the City Council, from a representative of the City Council, saying that the City Council was was concerned by the report and would look into the allegations. Thursday morning, Picture the Homeless and allies had a press conference outside of the News Corporation building to respond to the false and misleading reporting and to the attacks on PTH's funding. And just a few hours later, the executive director got a call from HPD officials essentially directing them to turn over their books and records by Tuesday at noon. The next day, on Friday afternoon, PTH got another call from the New York Post reporter who indicated that there was a letter from the City Council directing HPD to freeze Picture the Homeless's funding. The Post reporter refused to turn the letter over to Picture the Homeless. PTH still hasn't seen the letter. Looked for it in the mail today, and it wasn't in the office. So while it's difficult to comment on the contents of the letter without actually seeing it, the Post today quoted a report from it, and it certainly is a threat to PTH's funding. That funding is based on an HPD cost reimbursement contract. It's used to conduct surveys about displacement, to provide counseling and referrals, to pay for Metro cards, and to pay for town hall meetings in East Harlem. PTH's documentation about the way this money has been spent in the past is meticulously kept. They've never had any complaints from HPD about their implementation of this contract or provision of the services in the past. This attack, led by the Post and whoever is leaking the information to the Post from the City Council, jeopardizes not only 12% of Picture the Homeless's annual budget, but additional funding from other sources, and really funding like this for all city-funded groups who, like Picture the Homeless, engage in critical grassroots organizing around fundamental issues such as housing. There's a team of attorneys and legal allies who've been looking at the situation. When we get the letter, hopefully on Monday, we'll look at the letter. But the way that this has gone down so far raises serious due process and other legal concerns, and we're considering all of our options in responding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gideon. Now we'll hear from Lynn Lewis, the Executive Director of Picture the Homeless.
Good morning. Picture the Homeless is the only organization in the city that is founded and is led by New Yorkers who are homeless. And so, to this end, because we organize for social justice, we are a threat to the way that housing is being managed and mismanaged in the city. So, all of a sudden, there are questions since we released a report that documents that there's enough potential housing in vacant buildings like these and lots all over this neighborhood and all over this city to house nearly 200,000 people. All of a sudden, our work is called into question. The money that HPD gives us is money well spent. HPD actually should spend more money on trying to figure out a plan to create affordable housing for every New Yorker. Right now, HPD is not able because they're not funded to provide, to even plan or figure out how to provide housing for minimum wage workers, people that work in these grocery stores, folks that work in 99-cent stores. Pretty much every kind of service worker in this neighborhood is not able to afford an apartment, even the new affordable housing that's going up. And so this is what we're working on with the HPD funding, and it is critical work. The council, the Post reported today, the council called for a probe. Well, we welcome that. You know, we have our records. We're going to take them on Tuesday. That is not a problem. In fact, we welcome it so all of this kind of gossip can be squashed. The article then says in today's Post that the council has asked the city to cut off our funding. Now, due diligence also involves due process. And so if the city council disagrees politically with our work, then they should say that. But we are not going to accept them besmirching the character of our organization, nor allowing these kinds of anti-homeless, anti-poor stigma kind of charges like people are drug addicts and people are vagrants and all of that, and people are criminals, because that is not true. And that is actually the reason that Picture the Homeless was founded. So we're not having that. So anyway, excuse me. I would like to say this. It is currently legal for these buildings to be empty for decades. How many folks are from the neighborhood that can tell me how long have these buildings been empty? 10 years, 20 years, 30. So, you know, folks that live in neighborhoods affected by vacancy know that this is a problem. And right now you walk around and there's nothing folks can do about it, right? People feel like, well, it's bad, it's terrible. This neighborhood has very high rates of homelessness, of families doubled up. We have housing projects here. People are looking out the window and looking at vacant buildings that are in perfectly good condition, or they would not have stores on the ground floor. So everybody knows this is a problem. This guy does construction work. He knows, he's laughing, right? So we all know this is a problem. And we're going to keep talking about it. We are concerned that talking about options is a problem for at least some members of our city council and this current administration. So we challenge them to work with us. Our motto is don't talk about us, talk with us. We have solutions. That is what we are funded to do, and we're going to keep doing it. And thank you everybody for coming out. Oh yes, Sam, sorry.
So what's the real scandal here, right? Is it that a small grassroots organization got $240,000 over the past 5 years to document displacement and to do something about the housing crisis? Or is it that the city spent $3 billion in that same period to provide shelter to homeless people? Who here's been in a city shelter? Who here wanted to be in a city shelter? Right? Who here wanted to get some housing? Right? So the city currently spends more money on shelter than it does on housing. DHS's budget, the Department of Homeless Services, has a bigger budget than the housing department of the city. And meanwhile, we have vacant property like this one that's been vacant vacant for decades. We have vacant lots all over this state. There are a series of vacant lots that go right past that building that are owned by Chase Manhattan, right? Banks that got big bailouts for taxpayer money. You want to talk about taxpayer money poorly spent, right? That's taxpayer money that's going to big banks so they can keep property empty while people need housing. So that to us is the real scandal, and that's what we are here to do something about.
Yay! Next we hear from our ally and brother Silver, member DC Union DC 1707. Yay!
So once again, my name is Silver Pompofino. I'm a member of District Council 1707 of AFSCME. We represent local social service and nonprofit workers. The District Council has endorsed Intro 48 and called for its passage. We are folks who work in the social services. We work with disadvantaged people. We know what's going on firsthand with the struggle for housing, and our members themselves, many of them, perfectly, have perfectly good jobs, full-time workers are struggling with housing. Many of them, they don't earn enough to get housing in the city. So they recognize the importance of this, of doing something about the issue of homelessness and of taking into account all of the properties that are sitting vacant while people are struggling to find housing. That's why the District Council has called for the City Council to pass Intro 48.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next we hear from Lamont, who's representing Malcolm X Grassroots.
My name is Lamont Drew, and as an organizer for Picture the Homeless, as a member of Malcolm X Grassroots movement, and as a student organizer with Black Legacy at Lehman College, I'm well aware of the damage that reactionary media can do to the images of people in our communities, and it can cause the delegitimization of our struggles. And we've all seen recently sort of the damage that stereotypes have caused in perpetuating situations like Trayvon Martin being killed, but you have a racist news organization reporting on people that they know nothing about, making assertions that aren't true, delegitimizing the struggle of our organization, and also doing damage to the lives of the folks that we support and that we're here to defend, right? So we need media like this to be eliminated in order for the truth to be present, in order for organizations to be doing good work. So I just want to stand here in solidarity with Picture the Homeless because I'm well aware of the good work that we do, and people in the community are well aware of the work that we do. Our allies are well aware of the work that we do, and it needs to be clear that the New York Post can't stop us because we've been here for a long time and we're not going anywhere, especially whether or not if we get funding from the city or not.
That's right. That's right.
We want to make sure that the process that needs to be abided to is abided to. If you want to look into our records, like Lynn said, come on in. We have nothing to hide, and we just want to make sure that everyone knows that we're here to stay, and we're going to keep doing our thing.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you, Lamont. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'd like to ask you questions like one-on-one, like closer.
Okay, who do you want to talk to? Do you ever want to talk to any of us in particular?